Hello everyone, my name is the TS Gamer, and today we're going to start with our State Machine series. Today we start with the Finite State Machine, but first off, what is a State Machine? A State Machine, simple said, is a script which tracks your entity's actions. Please keep in mind that the image shown to your left after the second interaction, the previous interaction should be shown as old action, which is not present here in the video. Basically here in the middle we got an entity which has on top of him three components. One's the entity mover, the finite state machine, and the entity controller. Therefore we have 5 buttons, and whenever we press one of those we do trigger an action, or we cancel on or abort an action. So whenever I press, for example, the start idle action, our entity starts to idle, and the action comes from the entity controller script, which is located on the entity game object. That means we're on the entity game object here, which is the one in the middle, and the action comes from the entity controller script right over here. So whenever I press now start waypoint action, he will move towards one of these green locations, but the action comes now from a different script, the entity mover script, located at the entity game object, which means we can actually trigger actions also from different game objects in case of interaction or whatsoever. And if I press the start move action button, we move back to the red plateau, but it's a different action. That means that we can also declare multiple actions within a single script. How does that work? Let's say we have multiple scripts which implement a specific interface which tags the scripts as an action. Those scripts are attached to our game object. Each script have one or multiple actions within. Let's say we have one empty state in our state machine. Then we trigger from a script which is tagged as an action. First we check if there is any action active ongoing in our state machine. If so, we cancel it, then we transition towards the state machine. So now let's get hands-on. Please now first create 4 scripts for us. First IAction, then Finite State Machine, then Entity Controller, and at the end the Entity Mover. Let's start with the IAction interface. First we want to declare a function called cancel. That function is getting called whenever we cancel, abort, or make a transition from one action to the other. Then we need another function which tells us if we can actually cancel the current action, or do we really need to wait until we complete it, which will be a Boolean function called canCancel. Here, let's start now with the finite state machine. Here we have to declare a variable in which we will cache our active action, which will be called current action. To display the active action, we first need to make an Unity if statement to say, hey, if we're in the Unity editor, display me the information. So we need really to declare this if Unity editor box. So we really only run these functions and have those variables not as a waste, but only in the Unity editor. Therefore, we also need to declare a string which will represent the current action. The default state will be none, since in some cases, or in this case, we start without a real state. If you want to change that, it's up to you. And yeah, now we have to declare an update loop in which we will set up a small logic in case there is no active state. So let me do that quickly. In case there is no active state, we say that the current state is none. But if there is an active state, we just set it to string. I'm running this here in the update loop. You can put it inside of the functions. It's just to demonstrate you that yes, you can do it in the update loop. It's fine because it's only get run in the editor, but you can even make that more fine-tuned if it's necessary. So to make that whole thing to work, we need 3 simple functions. First, we need to start action function, which will be used to start a function. Here we take an action right over here as a parameter, which is very important. And we go through a few checks. So if the current, or let's say if the action we have given is null, we just return because there is no new action to set up. But if the current action is equal to the given action, we also return because that means that we're still interacting or like doing the action. So it doesn't mean that, so we don't need to repeatedly repeat that action because it's still ongoing. And the last check is if the current action is not null, but we are not able to cancel it. So we want this action really to finish till the end, we also return. And the last step is if all these cases don't happen, we just cancel the current action and we set the given action to the current action. So 2 functions to go. We first need to cancel current action function. Here we take no parameters, but we need to check if the current action is null. So that's important. And we need to check if the current action is cancelable. If it's not the case, we cannot cancel the function because the function requires to finish whatever you're doing. Otherwise, we cancel and we set the current action to null. Last step is the abort current action. That's also a very quick function. What does that function does is we only check if current action is null. If that's the case, we have nothing to abort. But if that's not the case, we don't care about if the function is cancelable or not. We do cancel the function, 100%. So now let's start to make some actions. So let's go to the entity controller, which had implemented the idle function. So our actions do depend on the state machine. So that means I like to assign the scripts that they require a component on top of our current entity on which the script is at. And I do use the function require component. That means that whichever this entity controller script is on, that entity or game object needs also the script finite state machine. Therefore, we also need to declare the state machine in a variable. And also we need to get it in the start function. So now we have the state machine, but that's not everything. We still have to assign the script as an action. So the state machine will say, okay, this is an action. He runs an action, I can take it. Okay, so let's do it right now. There we go. So with that interface, we assign the script as an action. And that interface wants us to apply 2 functions. The can-cancel function and the cancel function, which is for the transitions. So whenever we idle, we do it all the time, but herefore we still need to declare the function. So let's go ahead. So to start idling, we just say state machine.start action this. This refers to the interface class. All right, so that means that the entity controller, which implements the IAction class, is an action class. So that's why this refers to the whole class, which is totally fine. And with start action, we start the action within this void. Whenever we want to cancel it, we can cancel it since we applied can cancel to true. And whenever we cancel, this void gets applied. What I mean by this is that whenever we cancel out from the idle function, we will print in the console cancel idle. To see the more detailed, you will see it now whenever we start to do the mover script. Alright guys, so I'm recording the second time, so I tried to make it as quick as possible. Here we have the entity mover, which will be a bit bigger script, but by that script you will understand it a bit better. So how I start? So I start by requiring the state machine and the nav mesh mover. All right, so let me do that quickly. So the nav mesh agent is the agent required to move our agent, and the finite state machine is our state machine. So first we have to declare some variables and get them quickly. So let's get them first and declare the variables we need. Here we have some waypoints. These were the green cubes you have seen at the start of the video and the waypoint we're at the moment. And then we have these state machine and agent variables here, which we get right over here. Therefore, we need now to implement the IAction interface. So we mark the EntityMover script as an action. So let's do that quickly. Now you see we have to implement two functions, which are right over here, the can cancel and the cancel function. So that's what we're going to do right now. And in this script, we say we do can cancel whenever we move, because maybe we move towards one point and then we want to interact with something or hit anyone or whatsoever. And when we cancel, we run the agent is stopped function to true, or we set the variable to true. That means that our agent, that an mesh agent, will stop moving after setting the is stopped variable to true. Now we have to declare two functions. First is move to. So here you can see that we change agent is stopped to false. That means that we can basically move again. And then we declare a new destination where we want to move at. And by that, we need to apply the state machine start action this. This again refers to the class start action starts a new action in our state machine. Also, we have the other function declare, which goes between two green points on our map, the cube thing. So we do that as well here. We basically do here the same. We just choose a random destination for our agent, nothing else. Not a random one, but we go one after another. And by that way, you can see that we can call multiple actions within one script. Oh, not one script, but yeah, one script, sorry for that. So yeah, that's all about the state machine. Nothing too difficult. Let's go back to the scene. Now back in the scene, you still see I have already assigned those two waypoints, which I have here and there. And then I have my entity right over in the middle, which has also the entity controller script and the finite state machine. Those buttons right here in the canvas have assigned the functions from the entity mover script. Nothing too special. But of course, you can make it as much as complicated as you want, or do as many functions as you want. Here, just for you to see again, we do move in between two different green points, and we can also say move action. So we just trigger two different actions. We can say idle, and if we want to abort, we abort. And if we want to cancel, we can cancel. But at the moment, there's no action running, so we cancel nothing. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked that video. If you want more, just let me know. The series will follow with the different types of state machines, from simple to advanced ones. So if you subscribe, it would mean a lot to me, and I see you the next time, guys. Bye.